I guess I should start in the interest of time. Thanks for the introduction. Murat said, I'm actually doing this on behalf of my colleague, Rumnapa. I have a separate presentation, but since it actually blends very well with what her presentation is about, I'll try to tie them together. Essentially, this presentation touches on everything we've discussed up to this point, on social change, the nature of social change, whether it should be revolutionary, reformist, and so I hope you see the relevance here. What I'm going to present is really a kind of social change which is quite unorthodox. So let me start now. It's unorthodox because this project of community regeneration is actually grounded in fundraising through sport. So money through sport that is then channeled into social and community development projects. Before I carry on, I should mention that my colleague Tukta actually works in sports management, but she wanted me to clarify that she was a professional athlete, a national athlete in Thailand. And I myself was a national athlete, and that's how I knew her from the time we were teenagers. So this has been there was a gap of 15 years. I didn't know who she was, but one day I received an email, and somehow it was perhaps a necessary connection to make. So yeah, I had to say that because I think she wants you to know that she is actually passionate about sport, and this is really her motivation. So perhaps you can then understand why this is so unorthodox. Okay, so the project is actually, like I said, fundraising through sport with the aim to connect three communities, rural communities on the one hand, social livelihood movements that are committed to more autonomous ways of life, and of course, her own community of urban-based athletes. I've told you how this actually works. And so she's been doing this roughly since 2009. And she actually started this a few years before that, but made a lot of mistakes, meaning she wanted to give something back to the community, but it was largely through philanthropy. And she felt that, with experience, she realized that actually introducing money to rural economies often had destructive consequences. So yes, it can be represented like that. I'm not very good at doing PowerPoints, so perhaps it's a triangle where there are flows going in both directions. So largely the urban, like I said, sporting community actually contributes both finances and certain forms of expertise, athletic expertise, physiotherapists teaching people how to stretch, giving massages, etc. At the same time, there is some funds go into supporting rural communities who want to have some expertise on organic farming, on how to construct mud houses. So that was very appropriate, the presentation before this one. So there, the sharing and mutual learning goes in these ways. So it's largely an educative process, right? Where each of the communities has an opportunity to, in fact, just connect with the other, because as you know, in our society today, sports people very often don't participate in anything other than to win medals for their country, or increasingly it's become marketized neoliberal sport, right? It's all a business. Similarly, scholars and knowledge makers don't really have much contact with athletes. So yeah, it's really an opportunity. She sees it as an opportunity to get these different communities from vastly different backgrounds together. Okay, so I think I've summed that up. So I'm just presenting a sample the work she's done. There have been ongoing projects, and there have been about 90 events so far. And so this Metao clinic is in northwest Thailand. It's at the border of, it's in Mesot, at the border of Thailand and Myanmar. And the founder of this clinic is actually Dr. Cynthia Muang. If you look at the 1,000 Peace Women, yeah, she is one of them. So my colleague Tukta actually met her in I think in a Peace Congress organized in 2010, and ever since they've maintained contact. So the clinic sees about up to 1,000 patients a day, and it largely caters, no, in fact, it exclusively caters to stateless current people, right, living in the borders. So these are people without citizenship, and so they are not supported by any government. And historically, much of the funding for this clinic has come from NGOs. But since Myanmar has restored diplomatic relations with the international community, a lot of the funding has dried up because it's gone straight to the capital. So yes, anyway, this is one example. I think they've had a working relationship with them for the last 3 years now, and most recently there was some contribution of money to build a sterilization room, a sterilization of medical tools. Here's another example where the pictures here depict these alternative autonomous livelihood movements. The farmer on top, some of us might know. I know a Hong Kong group when maybe about 4 years ago. His name is John Jandai at Pan Pan Farm, and really it's an agricultural learning center now. Like most Thai farmers, he grew up being told that he had to go to the city to make it. So he went to university and started work and realized something was not right about the narrative. So he went back and basically tried to live the way of his ancestors. And basically he now has a lot of know-how in actually bringing soil, the fertility of restoring fertility to the soil. And he's got, I was just at his learning center there. There are a lot of people who want to pursue this way of life, and they go there and they live, and they're asked to just basically participate in the life there. You can basically learn how to build mud huts. So anyway, this project, how that's connected our project is that whenever there are people who are interested in know-how, we put them in touch with him, and he's willing to travel and travel to the local communities and conduct classes, for 2-3 days. The farmer below is, well, I visited him 2 weeks ago. He's a seed saver. He's a rice seed saver, and apparently he has 200 different varieties of rice, and the government actually goes and consults him. So again, this is largely a project that connects these movements, and they all know one another, and very often that's how they share resources. The last photo on the right, we call them the solar cell team, because about 10 years ago when there were severe floods in, I think it was in Bangkok, this group of engineers or scientists led by one particular man decided to use his expertise, solar, to recharge old cell phone batteries, right, for these purposes. So it's really, and now they use that to pump water to water the rice fields. So these movements are loosely affiliated, and what my colleague has done is really to bring them closer together. I don't know what other time. So occasionally, this is also in Mesot in northwest Thailand, near the border, athletes who want a chance to know what life is like for the villagers. We do ask them, and if we can participate when they're growing rice or harvesting rice, building a new home, which happens almost every few years, because, like you say, this is traditional architecture that needs to be maintained. But it's a obviously an eye-opening experience, because these are people who live off the forest, and so they really know how to get the materials. They know what to eat from the trees. So this is experience that most urbanites like us hardly, we hardly even consider, right? So now the other good thing about this is when the athletes return, this is posted at least on social media, so other athletes learn about the experience, and what we can, and what has tended to happen is that we can also sell the produce, right, to these athlete urban populations, and really there's this immediate contact between the urban and the rural. So this is an instance where the sporting community can contribute. On the pictures on my left or your right, basically it's a school started by parents taking care of disabled children, and they are completely devoted. They spend pretty much 6 days a week there taking care of these children. So I think there's not much state support for for children with such disabilities, and my colleague thought it might be a good idea to ask if physiotherapists in the sporting community would like to do something, and so once a month they go there and give the parents a massage, teach them how to take care of themselves, etc. The photo on the left, these swimmers actually go and teach life-saving skills to the villagers. Okay, so you might know of the situation with regards to plastic waste in Thailand and the pollution of the oceans. So Amara, who is a former world champion windsurfer, is now a windsurfing instructor, and she was really disturbed by the situation. So it's really the environment in which she works. So in collaboration with Tukta, they decided they could organize some kind of beach cleanup to raise awareness. So they've had 3 such events so far, and the first time that 150 people, mostly athletes, in fact all athletes, they are able to mobilize people especially little children, to come and pick up garbage from the beach one afternoon, and they've picked up 2 tons of waste. The second time 280 people came. Now the wonderful thing here is I learned from her that quite often they're able to avoid the use of money. Even the military takes an interest, soldiers going, oh, what are you doing? And they actually come and help, provide transport for the disposal of the waste and things like that. So the point here, I guess, the project here is, this is a project that seeks to connect people, really, from very different backgrounds. And so here, these are more photos of the beach cleanup. This is a short video, so maybe you can take a break from me talking. This is yeah. That's a windsurfing champion.
ยกตัวอย่างเป็นตัวอย่างที่เกิดขึ้นโดยมีประโยชน์มากนะครับเวลามีมูลนิธิมันก็มีถังขยะไว้สำหรับแยกขยะทั่วไปกับขยะที่สามารถรีไซเคิลได้ขยะคนด้วยกัน
อยากให้ลดใช้ถุงพลาสติกค่ะเพราะเดี๋ยวนี้ซื้ออะไรใหม่ก็ต้องใส่ถุงพลาสติกกลับบ้าน
ซื้อของก็ไม่ต้องใช้ถุงพลาสติกมาใช้แล้วก็ร่วมมือฝั่งถ้าจะไปออกลูกๆอย่างเงี้ยโตขึ้นมาเราก็จะได้รับความค่าแล้วก็รับความสำคัญขึ้นนะครับ
เราต้องปลูกจิตสำนึกนะเด็กๆนะแต่เนิ่นให้เขาเห็นโทษขยะที่เราสร้างมาด้วยมือเราเองนี่แหละเขาไม่เห็นตรงๆเขาจะไม่รู้ก็เริ่มต้นจากที่ตัวเราเองค่ะคือลดใช้รีไซเคิลค่ะแล้วก็พยายามห่อเรื่องพวกนี้ค่ะให้แบบเพื่อนๆเราในสังคมให้ช่วยกันนะคะรู้ว่าน่าจะเป็นสิ่งที่ถ้าเราเปลี่ยนพร้อมๆกันนะคะเราน่าจะเห็นอะไรที่มันเปลี่ยนแปลงได้ชัดเจนเราเข้าใจว่าพลาสติกเราไม่สามารถจะตัดทิ้งได้เรามีความจำเป็นต้องใช้แต่ถ้าเป็นไปได้คือพยายามใช้น้อยที่สุดเท่าที่จะทำได้ถ้าคนไทยทุกคนทำอย่างนี้เราเชื่อว่าปีหน้าขยะจะไม่เยอะอีก
So the project's actually called Sanfan. I don't, I'm sorry, I'm not able to translate that. There's a further project, and this is really with the Thailand's literary community. Some funds have been devoted to at least encouraging them with small prizes. Now, these prizes are indeed very small. You know, the 2 prizes per week are given for authors who make the blog, right? And 1,000 bahts, like maybe 200 yen. Yes, it's 200 yen, and there's an annual prize of maybe 80,000 baht. 80,000 yuan shared among 6 authors. So that's not very much. But again, you know, the purpose is really to give some encouragement. I would think that authors are not unlike many academics who struggle somewhat, right? And who are somewhat solitary. In turn, whenever there are sports events, you know, you see they put up small biographical profiles so that athletes know about lives and the work of authors. So yes, how do we analyze all this? I think the term common community and communication all implied some kind of shared experience. Without any of these, I mean, if you don't have community, you don't have any notion of the common, and there tends to be a lack of communication, right? So really, this seems to be the modern predicament, and this has been talked about by the classical sociologists. And so I think really the question this project seeks to grapple with is, you know, how do we change? How do we effect change when we all begin from different starting points and we have different ideological persuasions? So perhaps this is, you know, just an attempt to connect, and from there we'll see what grows from it. But okay, so that is the Sun Fund project. Now we'll move on to my presentation, which is related. No, I won't promise you it won't take very long. Maybe 6 minutes. Okay. So my presentation is really to elevate the importance of physical training, you know, as a form of education. So far, the Sun Fund has really relied on the sports, you could say the sports industry, or it has deployed funding of funds that have come from sport to generate some kind of change. This project that I'm currently working on is to reevaluate or reappreciate the value and the function of sport. I avoid the term sport because it's a really modern concept, you know, that has its roots in nationalism, perhaps in war, and now that is highly commodified, you know, so the concern of winning and losing is quite crucial to sport, and that's why I prefer the term physical training. But of course, that can be argued again. So it's right now physical/sports training. And the purpose of this project is really to examine different sports and see how they can cultivate a new subjectivity that is sensitive to social injustice, that is sensitive, that brings out compassion, that nourishes our ability to empathize, which is a social cement. So I just want to quote Mao here. It's his very first essay. Yeah, he says, physical education not only strengthens the body, but also enhances knowledge. So this is against the Cartesians, right, who have this divide between mind and physical and the intellect. It not only enhances knowledge, it harmonizes the sentiments. It not only harmonizes the emotions, it strengthens the will. So, I mean, you could be a revolutionary or you could be a reformist. I mean, I think there's no loss in doing sport. So I'll just conclude with a video that's 4 minutes. It's actually a film that was just launched on the 27th, just 2 days ago. I think it marks the beginning of this new chapter of this project we're working on.